So today we are going to talk about air pollution. So what is air pollution? What's air pollution? Munkasa.
Hey, why is everybody
Hey,
mute?
Munkasa.
Let me unmute everybody. They muted themselves.
Oh, okay. I'll mute them. I want them to speak.
Mm,
Okay.
I've unmuted them.
Okay. So basically, air pollution is polluted air. So when there are impurities in the atmosphere, caused by chemicals or physical or biological, materials. So, and according to WHO, about 7 million people worldwide every year die, or about, or air pollution accounts for about 7 million deaths. So just imagine each year, 7 million people are dying due to bad air. It's very sad. And when you look around, you realize that a lot of the things people suffer from are related to air pollution. And everybody wants to go to the city, everybody wants to come to Accra, good life. And when we come to Accra too, we want to buy the big cars, and we end up, sometimes we compete with factories, very places where they, they are not supposed to raise certain factories like toilet roll factories and mining companies. And even now we have the sand winning activities. You realize that people are now living close to those factories and industries. So by that they inhale all sorts of things, and most of our roads are not in a good shape, so dusty. So once those things are inhaled, it comes with its own health effects. Apart from that, there's scientific evidence. There's an area of study called exposure assessment. For them, all what they do is they want to know how impurities get into our bodies to poison us. So they have found that some of these elements in the air that make the air bad actually get into onto our skin and find a way to penetrate and then enter our bloodstreams and then go and settle in places like our kidneys and all that. And at the end, people have all forms of issues. And the sad part is that those who are most affected are living in the low income areas. In the advanced world, you cannot just get up and start burning rubbish in your neighborhood. There are standards that one would have to adhere or comply with. You cannot just get up and then start burning anything, yeah, including even smoking in public. And now the WHO says we have the third hand smokers. So I smoke, and even usually those who smoke are not as risk as the second hand smokers. So usually when they smoke, they only inhale about 35% of the smoke, and then they blow the 75% out. And the innocent person who thinks he's not at risk inhales it. So as they go, somehow, as you try to clean your face and all that, some of the particles drop by your nostril and you inhale them. Yes, and they get into your bloodstream and you fall sick, and you will be thinking maybe some innocent old woman being in your village who
Mm.
is causing you. Meanwhile, it is because you came to Accra and you were exposed to all forms of impurities. So the highest risk is in the urban areas. That's why for me, I can't wait to retire early and go and settle in a village where all this air pollution and gaseous is so limited, so low. You know, and in the village, apart from the bushfires and then the kinds of things, you know, they have this tripod cookers where they use clay with
Yeah.
firewood. So clearly you could see that those are their main sources of pollution. And then indoor, they have this lamp called bubu. Bubu.
Hmm.
It is, you know, the kinky sellers used to have the abubu by themselves. Is it
Yeah.
abubu or
Bobo.
bubu? Yes, yes, they
Yeah.
are the main sources of pollution in the rural areas. But in the urban areas, it's like you can hardly escape, and they are highly toxic in urban areas. And of course, just imagine, no wonder about 7 million people die from polluted air. So they've been classified into types of pollutants, say primary pollutants and secondary. So the primary pollutants, they say they are chemicals released directly into the air in a harmful form. So for some of the chemicals, they once they are pushed into the air or once and you come in contact with them in their original form, it becomes toxic. You know, a typical example is lead and mercury. Recently, Noguchi went to Agbogboshi, and they did a test to see if there were if people living in that area, particularly school children, were at risk of some of these chemicals, you know, getting into their systems. And they realized that most of the children there had lead in their bodies. And sometimes even in the mining areas, you find that mercury, some people actually have mercury, all forms of metals in their systems, all because of the activities ongoing. So the particulate material, for instance, agbogboshi, you go and you find out they are burning all forms of electronic wastes that come with dangerous materials, very, very dangerous ones. And you realize that as they are burning them, there are some people who makes the fire because they want all the rubber around the metals to burn so that they can have access to the metal. So as they are mixing it, it's it flies. Even some of the under normal circumstances, the particles that could not under normal circumstances suspend in the air, as they are mixing, some of them just get lifted up like that, and they inhale it, and it becomes issues for them. So yes, so the mercury, the lead, the ash itself, methane, they're all things that when you come in contact with in its original form can harm you. But there are some of them too that they have to combine with other chemicals to become very dangerous for us. So atmospheric acids, what we call the photochemical oxidants, and tropospheric ozone and all that ozone. So for them, they would have to they have to combine with someone who say they have to marry other chemicals to become poisonous. Yes. So yes, the pollutants that are of major public health, we see as big threats to our or to public health are particulate matter, carbon monoxide, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. Yes, because they are associated with all forms of conditions. You can just imagine the asthma, the allergies, the respiratory, the all the COPD. You just mentioned them. They affect everywhere, the kidneys, the lungs, and you realize that they are also so the fume coming out from car monoxide, I believe, and then even the dust around us. So we are exposed to them on daily basis. And once you are exposed to them, even some of them, the particulate matter, for instance, we have one called fine particulate matter. They are so tiny, but and that they can go to places and they can cause problems, even when you are exposed to it in the short term. So the particulate matter, the fine particulate matter, for instance, even when you are exposed to it for 2 hours, you realize that your blood pressure is going up. In the long term, you are sure to be diagnosed of hypertension, and they are dangerous. Meanwhile, they are all common and we are surrounded by them. So they are important to public health. So yeah, this is a diagram showing some sources of. Is someone asking a question or
No,
saying
sir.
something?
I had
Oh,
to
okay.
mute them. The person wasn't aware.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes. So here, this diagram shows the sources of pollution. Okay. So as we can see some of the factories, industry, power plants, sewage, they are stationary source, and you realize that we have airplanes, we have the cars, the trucks, so polluted. Today, like this, even in a place like Dansuman, I saw a car polluting the environment, so black, so terrible. And I said, no, this cannot happen in my country where I come from. No, because there are a place in the Volta region is my country. Yeah, even the gods of Nogopo won't allow that because they even have standards. Yes, even when you go to Nogopo, you cannot even litter around. You cannot litter, not to talk about polluting people. Even the gods will come descend on you. And we are in Accra, 21st century. You have to face that. So all the fertilizer, volcano, the wildfires. In Australia, for instance, there was wildfire. They couldn't control it. It took months for the fire to go off, and you can imagine how it has distorted or affected our ecosystems and health. So yes, so we have volcanoes, forests. Or these are some sources of pollutions or pollutants. So some to have classified the man-made. So the we have the natural sources like the volcanoes, the bushfire, and then the dust storm. And we also have some man-made sources, and the man-made sources can be observed or are classified into point sources and non-point sources, and mainly because of research purposes. Okay, so when you have a point source stationary, for instance, you have which explains a specific or spots where large quantities of pollutants are discharged. For instance, a power plant, oil refineries, boilers, and cement, and all those things. So those ones, the issue. So it means that if you want to know the amount of air pollution in the system, you just go and then put your device, attach it to where the pollutants are coming out from. So if it's a factory, you look out for the source, the outlets, and then you attach your machine there to measure how much of air pollutants are being released into the system. And but some of them, like cars and things, it's noise because you have a lot of cars moving around and they are widespread. So we call them non-point sources. So for those ones, maybe you only look at areas where there are high concentrations of the pollutants. So when you wake up early in the morning, places like La Paz Junction, then you go and put maybe your monitor or your device there to see the level of um, pollution over there. So basically, these classifications are just there for um, research and yes, mainly for research and academic purposes, but mainly for research, so to guide you in measuring or determining the amount of pollutants in the air. And now we have advanced, and if you want to see how it affects people, you can even now attach some devices to people, which is close to their breathing zone to know how much of the air pollutants they have inhaled over a period of time. So yes, so and another way of also looking at the sources of air pollution is we can say classify as indoor air pollution and outdoor air pollution. So the first one was natural, and then man-made, or another word for man-made activities is anthropogenic activities, so related. So moving on, this is more of an East Legon building. I wish I didn't prepare this slide. It is Dr. Ansan and then Laurentia, a doctorate candidate. I would have preferred using a typical Ghanaian house, mud house. Yes, because all this will have all the luxuries of life. I would have to show indoor air pollution where you show that kind of tripod using the clay, in the village setting. Yes. But for this diagram, according to the diagram, from even within a house, we can have mold and bacteria as a source of pollution. You have chemicals from paint. We can talk about the cleaning supply chemicals, cigarette smoking. If you are living in a house and someone smokes, particularly indoors, it will take a very long time for the smoke to escape out of the house. And before it escapes, someone would have even smoked over and over and over again without touching the cigar itself. So it's estimated that 2.2 million deaths each year due to it. So initially we said seven air pollution accounts for about 7 million deaths in a year. And here we are saying that indoor air pollution accounts for 2.2 million deaths each year. The sad part is that it is pregnant women who are most affected by indoor air pollution, because you realize that they spend most of their times indoors. Most of their times indoors. And you also appreciate the fact that their immune system during pregnancy is a bit low. So they affected, and their children too are affected. So since it is one of the leading, it's one of the leading causes of disease and premature death in the developing world. Yes, so it accounts for a lot of DALIs. So the number of it shortens life. DALI, I mentioned that disability adjusted life lost or years, life years. And some of the sources are mites, dust mites, molds, bacteria, like I mentioned earlier, and even cooking. You know, people use all forms of things to cook nowadays. So like wood, the charcoal, animal dung. So they are burnt inside homes for cooking and heating. And we also have poor ventilation. We also have poor ventilation. So with that, carbon monoxide and other dangerous contaminants and increases inhalation exposures. And that is for developing countries. So there are some certain peculiar things that are common to developing Europe, because of course we are not that advanced. So it is recently that you find a lot of people using gas. But if you still go to the place like the Volta region, a lot of villages, they are still using firewood and charcoal and what have you. And we have indoor air in developed countries. So they also have their own like tobacco they smoke, particularly with Russia and some other areas with very cold climates. For them, they love to smoke. They love to smoke, and a lot of the times because of the cold weather, they think the smoking will also keep them warm, and because of the bad weather conditions, they want to smoke indoor. And that's yes, some to use chimney. Yes, the things on top of their homes, they'll set fire indoors, and that also have effect on them. So increasing prosperity and development. So the chart on the right is interesting. In fact, this is the first time I'm taking a critical look at such diagram, and from you realize that the horizontal line is being broken into one, two, three, four parts with broken lines. And on top, each column has been classified very low income, middle income, develop, their source of air pollution also change. So first, it's beginning in the very low income. They have the crop waste or dung. Then it moves to wood, then charcoal. Then we have the coal, kerosene, then ethanol, gas. And as they move to the high income, you have the natural gas, electricity. So a time is coming. So from this data, we can assume to be prophets to say that with time, Ghanaians will start depending on electricity as a source of energy for cooking and other things because our doomsday problems would be dealt with. If not, then we'll continue to rely on the natural gas. So if you want to look at this one, you may be tempted to think that Ghana too is a high income country. Meanwhile, no, we are not there yet. But somehow too, we are middle. You see gas, liquefied petroleum gas, and all of you. So going to the test, it says that indoor pollution, okay, accounts for 4% of the global burden of disease measured by disability adjusted life years lost, and almost 80% of which is in Africa and Southeast Africa. So largely about 80% of the burden associated with indoor air pollution is found in places like Africa and Southeast Asia. So our question should be why?
Hmm.
The question is why? So according to the Institute of 22.6 million people died premature in 2016 from illness attributable to household air pollution. So household indoor air pollution is caused mainly by inefficient use of solid fuel for cooking and cleaning with high levels of pollution often recorded in poorly ventilated dwellings. Energy access and types of fuel use depends on income. So this chart can also be seen from the point of your individual income. That argues that, well, you are likely to use another form of or source of energy as your income levels changes. So, and clearly, yes, when you go to the villages, you realize that a lot of them still depend on the wood, firewood, and those who have a little more money would want to use the coal, and those who have been influenced by the Accra and city life and they think they are rich enough can go for kerosene. Um, Nick,
Yes, sir.
I have a notice here that the
Okay.
meeting will end in 10
In
minutes.
10
I'm
minutes.
going to
Okay.
now to, yes.
Okay.
So,
So when it ends, you can start
yes.
another session and then we'll join again.
No, okay. No,
Yeah.
okay. No, okay.
Yeah. It's normal for the free version of the Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as your income, what is the chart is also saying is that as your income levels change, you are likely to also change, your source of energy for cooking, or you are likely to be exposed to another form of, chemicals that, when mixed with air, can, be dangerous to your health. So coming down, narrowing down to Ghana, biomass usage is 92% constituencies, 56% wood, charcoal. Approximately 69% of all urban households in Ghana use charcoal. Yes, so 69%. So about 69% of Ghanaians rely on charcoal. So where does charcoal fall? Charcoal falls within low income and middle income. But so if you use gas, I think you should know that you belong to a middle to high income group according to this chart or this data.
And
So we are not far from You are not far from Kwame Despite. Maybe Kwame Despite to belong to the high income. Maybe you middle income or getting close. Yes. For you know, I won't be. So the WHO also estimate that exposure to indoor air pollution is responsible for 16,000 deaths per year in Ghana, with high number of deaths among women and children. So clearly, it means that the most vulnerable are women and children. And once again, I think yes, women are more likely to get pregnant, and their immune system, and children too is like they are in their formative stages now. Before it is now that it is during those periods that they are forming um, their organs are fully being like developing or fully being formed. And one thing in particular with children is once they are exposed and they are affected, it's likely to have a lifelong effect on them. So once you have children in the house, you should try as much as possible to keep the children away, or your household should be void of air pollutants because they are at higher risk. And for women, it largely affects their reproduction, their reproductive health. Times it's linked with even infertility, common air pollution, and for children, asthma and cardiopulmonary diseases. Yes. So outdoor pollutants. So yes, we've seen what indoor pollution is. Now it's time for us to look at outdoor air pollution. So I read outdoor air pollution refers to pollution outside of a building. So any pollution that you're exposed to that is not inside a building is outdoor. Once it is outside, it's tantamount to outdoor air pollution. And it's grouped as climates, the climate, the temperature, prevailing winds, as a source, topography, the hills, the nature, the hills and valleys, the cities and surfaces. So outdoor pollution becomes a significant with the development of populous cities or large industrial areas. Yes, it's true. So you realize that as everybody is trying to move to Accra, you realize that more and more people find ways, like I mentioned earlier, everybody wants to own a car. And people, you have more places for barbecues, for kebab. There are more factories in the city. So as people are aggregating, or you see more and more people moving to a particular location, you find that it's positively correlated, or you find more air pollution in those locations more and more. So developing countries and urban areas still have significant problems compared to developed. According to WHO, urban outdoor air pollution levels have increased by 8% between 2008. So ambient air, so the ambient there is just something in the air that is more of something that is easily like in the air, like it floats sort of. Some of the air pollutants, they are, although they can be carried by air, they easily settle. So if they use the word ambient, it's more of something that can easily float. It can suspend in the air for a very like aerosol and this. Is it aerosol? Can easily suspend in the air. And that accounts for 4.2 million deaths per year due to so once again you see stroke, you see heart diseases, lung, chronic respiratory diseases, and there are many asthma, even allergies, reproduction. It affects a lot, kidney, a lot of issues are associated with air pollution. So establishing So Clean Air Act established air standards for 6 criteria pollutant, which are, so they are acts that regulates how we manage air pollution. So and it is the work of the Environmental Protection Agency to protect us from these things. But you ask again and you wonder if they are really doing their work. And if you ask them, they'll tell them government haven't equipped them enough to do what they are supposed to do. Yeah, it is sad.
Very.
Vision. No, okay. So here are some forms of air quality guidelines. So depending on the pollutants, so like the particulate matter 2.5, that is fine particulates. We have the PM, what's the name, 10, which is the coarse particulate matter, ozone, then and all that. So you realize that what the guideline values is saying that we have the 10, is it micrograms per, how do you pronounce this?
Uh,
Mm, okay, meter cube, is that the case?
M3, that's meter cube.
Yes, good. Marvin.
Really?
So and so 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 what it's saying is that every year there has to be, when the average of the air pollution is taken for a year. Let's take East Legon for instance, and they calculate and they work out the average. It shouldn't exceed 10 micrograms per meter cube over, but in a certain day, in a day, you can tolerate this one, but it shouldn't exceed the 25 in a day. But when you add all the values for the 365 days, it shouldn't exceed 10. And you realize that when you compare the PM 2.5 or fine particulate matter
Hello,
to
sir.
the, yes,
Please, I want to ask you this.
okay,
If someone use wood to prepare charcoal as a
yes,
source of income for their family,
yes,
having known all this effect, and a
yes,
person comes to the hospital always comes with respiratory conditions,
yes.
is it possible to tell the client to stop, or
And
what?
no,
I
you
need
see,
suggestion.
yes, so you cannot tell the person to stop, okay? But what we are saying is that even if you want to do it, there have to be some preventive measures, like
Okay.
PPEs, like wearing of nose masks, wearing of,
Okay.
protecting oneself from having those pollutants enter your body to have an effect on you.